And I was delighted to see Governor Wallace get some 68 to 70% of the vote in that presidential preference primary. It looks like it's gotten down to the point to where the three leading candidates, of course, are McGovern and Humphrey and Governor Wallace. I would certainly hate to think that we had to make a choice at the Democratic Convention between Humphrey and McGovern. I would certainly hate to feel that that's the best that the Democratic Party has to offer as a choice for the presidency. I bumped into Senator McGovern right after the Massachusetts and Pennsylvania primaries, and he said, Jim says, there's a lot of talk that there's going to be a ticket between, and this is actual, I'm not saying something facetiously, he says there's a lot of talk that there's going to be a ticket between McGovern and Wallace. Well, says there's nothing to that. Says so that couldn't be. I said, well, George, I agree with you. It couldn't be. So don't believe that's going to happen.
Well, I would certainly think it indicates that he's in real trouble. He's won very handily before in the past. He's never really had a contest in the past, but I think that the Republican ticket is going to be headed by Dick Nixon and Red Blunt in Alabama, and whoever heads the Democratic ticket nationally, they'll just have to live with it, whether it's Humphrey or Kennedy or whoever it is, and I don't believe that'll go down very well in this state.
We have a 50-cent piece here, and this is going to buy the first ticket, and we're going to make a purchase here for the first ticket, and we want all of you to come and be a part of it. And this is just the first ticket of what we hope will be many. And if we got some sisters here, and I hope we have, we'll be on with it. All right. Laurie, come around here and help me with this, will you? Come around here. All right. Come on, about just like this and help me. All right. Put your hand right up in here. We're going to do this thing. Are we ready? All right. And now we're ready. So let's go inside now and buy the first ticket.
Well, we'll be starting out with the animals on display. We'll actually have 57 different types of animals and 133 total.
What will the operating hours be as far as the public's concerned?
We'll be open from 9:30 until 4:30, and then we'll let the public have 1/2 hour to leave the zoo grounds. So actually 9:30 to 5 will be our operating hours.
Is it 7 days a week?
7 days a week, 365 days a year.
We note here that there's quite a bit of room around yet for expansion. Are there plans now for expansion? I know that on opening day you're probably opening with just the bare minimum, but there must be some plans in the future.
Right, this is just our beginning. We do hope to develop a lot more here. And of course we do have Lagoon Park, which we hope to develop into a major zoo in the future. But there are plans for an expansion. We do not have any reptiles on display now. So we do hope to have a reptile display, plus waterfowl displays, and of course many of the other standard zoo displays.
What are the, just name off 3 or 4 of the major exhibits that you do have here now?
Well, I think things of interest, lions, many different forms of monkeys. Of the birds, we just recently got into very pretty flamingos. Of course, our Monkey Island is a very good exhibit, and people spend a lot of time there. There's a lot of activity on it. We have over 12 monkeys on the island at the present time, and we have room in the future to put even more on.
Mayor, the Honorable James Robinson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And this is a day full of honor for the city of Montgomery. This is just another one of those clear examples of the proper expenditure of taxpayers' dollars and cooperation of citizens, Mr. Douglas Good and others who have given of their time and their talents and indeed their some of the things that they own. Mr. Good has let us use some of the birds here, and we compliment him for that. To the members of the Parks and Recreation Board and the Zoo Committee, the Advisory Committee, we say thank you. And it's indeed an honor and a pleasure to represent the people of the city of Montgomery, who really, in the final analysis, provide the money for us to do these things for the people of Montgomery. And that's the name of the game. It's a pleasure to be here.
And at this time, I'd like to introduce our Commissioner of Public Works, Commissioner Cliff Evans.
Thank you, Ross. Mayor Robinson, the Parks and Recreation Committee, Board, I certainly want to commend you for the fine job that you have done here at the Chisholm Zoo and other sections of the city of Montgomery. We just certainly want to commend you. This is wonderful for our city, and especially our young people. We need more recreation area, parks and zoos for our citizens here. And it is a great day for Montgomery, and we thank you very much.
You were running right behind him before he had his problem up there. Do you think that it would have made a difference as far as the end of the race? What's your speculation?
Well, that's just exactly where I wanted to be. I wanted to be running second on the white flag so I can draft by him at the backstretch. If I hadn't, I know he could have done me the same way. So everything just went perfect.
Now, were you going to make your move down the back straightaway instead of trying to get the slingshot off of the fourth turn and into that bend?
Well, we'd tried it 2 or 3 times during the race, and it didn't seem like I could quite get him from coming off of number 4, so I said, well, I better to get it on the backstretch. And that's what I'd plan on doing, wait until the backstretch and get him from there.
So it's a real pleasure for us to announce this warehouse and distribution type business, and to welcome and congratulate the officials of Marathon Realty Company and Bell and Norfleet Enterprises for their foresight in planning and providing our state with this much needed facility. I want to thank all of them and say that we have with us today Mr. Tom Jernigan, who is president of Marathon Realty, and Mr. Everett Norfleet and Mr. Bill Bell of Bell and Norfleet Enterprises. And I want to recognize Mr. Bill Bell, who will tell you a little more in detail about this distribution center and what it will mean to the Birmingham area and the Homewood area. We also have Mr. Bob Waldrop, the mayor of Homewood, and Harry Brock, President and Chief Executive Officer of Central Bank and Trust, which purchased the revenue bonds, and Mr. Don Newton, Executive Vice President of Metropolitan Development Board in Birmingham, and we have representing also the state of Alabama, Mr. R.C. Bamberg. So, Bill, thank you and all of you folks for this new development that will provide employment and business and building in our state, and we
And I would like to place his name in nomination again this morning.
The name of Judge Timmy Evans has been placed in nomination for the municipal court judge job. Is there discussion?
Well, you're asking me, I guess. Well, like I said last week, I think all three of the people, the names that were submitted last week, well qualified and could do a real good job up there on the bench in the municipal court. And I'm anxious to get this thing resolved, and I know Judge Lowe would like to take his retirement and go, so I'm ready to vote on that.
All in favor of the motion by Commissioner Evans, please raise your hand. Commissioner Evans and Rucker vote for it, and all opposed like sign. Robinson votes in opposition to it. Mr. Garrett, next item.
we have every concern and every compassion for the treatment of the mentally ill. We're not interested in appealing to say that this shouldn't be done. There are two features of the order that I know that the governor feels, and I believe those of us in state government feel, and perhaps the mental health board feels, should be reviewed at least by the appellate court. One would be the time frame within which these many improvements and upgrading should take place, and secondly, the threat of judicial funding. We feel that both of these concepts should be reviewed, and that some determination by a higher appellate body ought to be made on that. Those are the two features of the order that I believe the governor feels should be reviewed, and perhaps the mental health board feels the same way.
Is the state bearing any expenses of the national campaign?
No, sir.
Well, what about the bill that reportedly went to the state highway department for the airplane? Has that been paid yet? Or
I have no idea. In fact, the highway director tells me he can't find the bill. I have been reported earlier saying that the only thing I do know about is it had no relationship to the campaign, because that was checked at the campaign headquarters. It bears no relationship whatsoever to the presidential campaign.
You saying that you might have been misquoted about what you said to the highway director about the airplane, or the bill that came in for the airplane use?
I don't know what
you were quoted as
saying
saying that you went to the highway director and said, pay the bill. Did you say this?
Absolutely not.
Do you know who
I believe it was reported I hand-carried the bill around the Capitol complex here, was it not? I really don't have time for that.
Well, what was the bill for? Who used the plane?
I couldn't tell you. I'd made none of the arrangements for the plane. I have no idea.
It was used
It was not handled by me or my office, so I couldn't answer that.
It was not used for state business?
I'm sure that it was, but not by myself or under my direction.
I'm pleased to tell you that the expenditures of the City of Montgomery for the first 7 months of the fiscal year are 3.1% below the budget as originally adopted. Department heads and responsible city employees are to be commended for this accomplishment. Income for the same period is 5.1% more than was estimated. We have on hand $430,811.21 over our projections. Ordinance, which is a law, stands, then we're going to be faced with something over $1 million in expenditures that we do not have, nor do I see any way for them to come to us. Budget and
Maryland is a state that's always been a peculiar state to us. You never know exactly how you stand up there. Things are looking real good up there at this time, and we have the people on the scene, and the governor's been drawing real good crowds in Maryland. Michigan looks a little bit better to us in Maryland, as a matter of fact, and as it stands at this time, I feel like that we've got an excellent chance in Michigan. I would hesitate to predict a win in either state, but I would be less likely to predict a win in Maryland than I would in the state of Michigan.
This figure is taken from fiscal information supplied basically by the fiscal section of the Mental Health Board and by our own budget division here. The figures I recall is something more, a little over $107 million, which does represent the capital outlay requirements contained in this court order, plus all the operational requirements, which would be staff, personnel, the upgrading of treatment facilities, and also the improvements and additions to the capital outlay facilities of the program. And my recollection is it was something over $107 million that was arrived at by the two agencies I mentioned. So the governor's figure of $110 million is just about right.
The grand jury reported shortly after 2 o'clock this afternoon returning 32 true bills for violations of the Narcotics Act. In its report to Circuit Judge Richard Emmett, the grand jury said it inquired into the matter of certain charges made regarding alleged threats made against the Commissioner of the Board of Corrections. The grand jury said the report of the state investigators will not be completed until the jury has recessed, and therefore recommended that the next grand jury look into the matter and determine if any action should be taken. The next grand jury will be impaneled in July. The grand jury report, read by its foreman, Charles Brightwell, gave the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department its endorsement in the recent controversy over who should guard the courthouse. The county commission recently agreed to hire a private security agency to guard the county courthouse at an estimated cost of $20,000 a year. The grand jury said, "It is our understanding that Title 12, Section 184, Code of Alabama 1940 as amended, imposes the duty of guarding and protecting the courthouse on the sheriff of Montgomery County, and we recommend that the Board of County Commissioners follow this section, and after conferring with the sheriff of Montgomery County, provide sufficient funds to the sheriff for carrying out the purposes of this statute." The jury also stated that it inspected the county jail and found it in a clean and sanitary condition, but completely inadequate and overcrowded. The jury also commended the Narcotics Division of the Montgomery Police Department for its work and recommended that more money be provided for the fight against drugs. Circuit Judge Richard Emmett accepted the grand jury report and recessed the grand jury. This is John Moore, WSFA TV News at the Montgomery County Courthouse.
Well, let me go back to this right hurriedly, to the fact that why we are not on the ballot in California. California ballot position came along the same time that we were fully involved in an actual primary in the state of Florida. To get on the ballot in California as a Democrat is extremely hard, Republican or otherwise. It's not easy to get on the ballot as a presidential candidate in the state of California. This required a lot of signatures, petition signing, organization of a committee. It had to be submitted to the Secretary of State and this type thing. So we didn't have the manpower or the money to both operate a campaign in the state of California, in the state of Florida, and at the same time run a ballot position race in California. So now the people of California has come across with a tremendous response via mail, via telephone calls, wanting him to be active in legal boundaries that you have to comply with even as a write-in candidate. We are investigating that at this time. We have an attorney that's in the process of investigating a write-in possibility in California. The local citizens of California have informed me that they're going to head up a write-in campaign out there, whether we like it or not, you might say. We're not deterring them in any way at this time, but we're not giving them any assistance. Now, I'm not saying that we're not going to, but we're going to wait and see what happens next Tuesday. And if we are successful there, then there's a possibility that we would lend some assistance in California for a write-in, along with the possibility of the governor actually going to California. important because it's a northern state, isn't it? Well, that's true. Of course, a lot of people all over the United States that are for the governor, and of course, definitely think the governor is a viable candidate. However, they've waited to see whether he was going to win a northern state. Michigan looks like, as he would prove to the people throughout the nation, that the governor is capable of winning in all sections of the country. So Michigan is probably boiled down to be one of our most important primaries.
L.B. Sullivan, Commissioner of Corrections of the state of Alabama.
Thank you, Von Hill. Mr. President, officers, and members. There's one little thing that he did leave out, that I am presently involved in taking swimming instructions from the wife. Before Tom Jones beats me to it, I'd like to tell you that before Tom Jones beats me to it, I'd like to tell you that I have had the offer of 9 paid-up memberships in the Y, 43 sets of water wings, and just a few moments ago Walter Tyson came back and said he thought I was wearing an inner tube, but since I wasn't, he's going to see if he couldn't get me one of those. But there's many things in the mill now that, of course, as you read almost daily, in addition to the need for swimming lessons and other things, the Board of Corrections and the prison system has many problems. We have the misfortune from time to time to have quite a bit of publicity about some of the tragic things that happen at some of our institutions. As I mentioned a moment ago, that Holman is the maximum security facility, and as such that we have housed at Holman, I think yesterday's count was around 666 people. There are probably some of your more professional type of criminals, and I would say more hardened type of criminals that we have at the other institutions. That we're attempting to overcome some of the problems we have there by developing recreational type of programs to involve these people rather than to keep them caged up 24 hours a day. We also have in mind that if our plans come true, vocational type of programs that will be implemented at Holman. And all in all, I think the future looks a little bit brighter than it has in the past, and we are hopeful that things will be better in the future. But the population there varies from time to time due to
Hospital, he sent this message.